possible stabbing, Devilston State Park.
2 young children were found and indicated that something had happened to their parents.
Here, they're on the lower Devilston Trail. I've got two bodies.
They absolutely protected those girls to the point that it cost them their lives. This investigative team had one mission and one mission only, and that was to put hands on this suspect.
It was right here at this beauty salon in Springdale where the Arkansas State Police arrested Andrew James McGann.
I was about 5 minutes into the haircut. Something did feel off about him.
He had recently moved here, had taken employment as a teacher. Whether he committed something else, we don't know, but we are certainly going to explore that.
The state will not be waiving the death penalty in this case.
The murder of 2 people at Arkansas's Devil's Den State Park shook the state to its core. For many, it seemed vicious, senseless. A manhunt was launched and law enforcement was relentless. Thank you for joining us for this episode of UnNatural State of Crime. I'm Jo Ellison. It was July 2025. Parents Clinton and Cristen Brink were on a hike with their 2 children when they were attacked, stabbed, and murdered. But not before the Brinks were able to save their 2 daughters. This is their story.
It's really natural state park. You can try to describe it, but until you come out and see it for yourself, you'll never truly understand.
Devil's Den State Park, nestled in Arkansas's Boston Mountains, a quiet space with unique beauty.
It's a great wonder of Arkansas.
Growing up in Arkansas, visiting Devil's Den is a part of memories, adventures, and is a place you would tell a person new to the state that they should visit.
You just can't go everywhere in this nation and find things like this.
And that may have been the case for Clinton and Cristen Brink, a family that moved from South Dakota to Prairie Grove, Arkansas in 2025. The weekend before Clinton Brink was to start his new job delivering milk, he and his wife, along with their 2 daughters, went hiking at Devil's Den State Park.
Medic Corps, Circular First Responders, Station Police, assault, possible stabbing, Devilston State Park.
Saturday, July 26, just before 3 p.m., a 911 call came into the Washington County Dispatch Center.
2 young children were found and indicated that something had happened to their parents on the trail.
According to investigators, the Brinks' daughters found their way out of this trail, running into other people visiting the park that day.
But the terrain was what you would see in a typical park. I don't know that it was particularly rugged, but it had some inclines. It was fairly maintained. Our estimation was about a half a mile into the park, so you can imagine how long that would take to get out.
We're all sweeping the trail, me and I've got a maintenance person with me, interpreters with first aid kits trying to locate the family. I got to relay to the office that we found the victims down here. They're on the lower Devil's Den Trail. I've got two bodies.
Arkansas State Police say their investigation led them to believe Clinton and Cristen Brink were murdered after being ambushed and stabbed multiple times, but not before protecting their children.
So the information that we have is that the husband was attacked first. The mother did not return all the way to the car with the kids. We believe that the mother took them to safety and then returned to help her husband. That initial information that came from the kids gave us our first starting point, which was a description of a suspect. There was another witness at the park that we encountered that gave us additional information about the suspect and a particular vehicle that he was seen leaving the park.
But information released to the public about a possible suspect on the loose would take time.
And like someone's still on the loose, and that's just very, very scary.
Cop cars all around there.
Our hearts just go out to
the
family and the victims.
Everyone
and
that
just
witnessed that.
6 hours after the 911 call, Arkansas State Police released a statement about a manhunt for the suspect. Investigators cited a remote area, time for special agents to arrive on scene, locate witnesses, conduct interviews, and collaborate information as the reason for the delay.
From there, we had a pretty good description of our suspect. We did our initial release. Other witnesses came forward that were on the trail during the time that the murders occurred that did not see the murders, but brought forth video footage, photographs that they had taken on their day trip to the park. From that, we obtained a photo. We interviewed witnesses and were able to compile a composite sketch of what we believed our suspect looked like.
A description of a car and a sketch of this man lingered in the minds of people in nearby communities as police relentlessly searched for him. A statewide manhunt is now underway. The suspect, described as a white man, wearing dark shorts and a shirt, a ball cap, sunglasses, and carrying a backpack. Police released this sketch of the suspect, noting he was seen driving toward a park exit in a dark sedan with a license plate covered by electrical or duct tape.
hopefully he's not close around here. He's far enough. Devil's Den, there's like no cameras, like no service. It's like, it's very easy for someone to just come and go.
As far as not having cell service, I do feel safe, but there is a false sense of security sometimes.
Word spread someone had killed Clinton and Cristen Brink on a hiking trail at Devil's Den State Park. Their daughters, ages 7 and 9, escaped the stabbing attack. Authorities shut down the hiking trails as a massive manhunt for the suspect unfolded. Police only released this sketch and a description of the suspect's vehicle.
With that, we received dozens and dozens of tips. With the initial vehicle information that we received, it being a black sedan, one of the initial descriptions was that it was sporty. From that, we received well over 5 or 6, maybe close to 10 videos of this particular car from homes and businesses along the routes in and out of the park.
Tips became critical.
We received over 500 tips. And initially we were using the names and information to come out to compare with, did they have black vehicles? Did they meet a certain criteria of vehicles? But as we began to hone in on the vehicle, it became clear that it was a Kia Stinger. He did use tape to conceal some of the things that would help identify his vehicle.
Though police didn't share those details with the public at the time. Without much information, people in nearby communities were on edge. They wanted answers and wondered if they were safe.
It was every agent's worst nightmare, because in a typical investigation, we use what we call victimology. And you can usually kind of pinpoint something that a victim has done or the circumstances they're in, whether it's a domestic violence or just drug related. You can typically narrow down your suspect pool. We had no way to do that in this case, so it made it particularly difficult. I will say that social media did nothing to help our investigation.
People were speculating on social media, sharing their thoughts, and trying to make sense of it all.
And I would say that it absolutely hindered our investigation. The hurt and just the emotional toil that social media gave to that family. It's so easy to be that keyboard warrior and question everything that law enforcement is doing. And I would just simply say that let us do our job. If you've got a tip, give it to us. Don't spread it on social media.
Patrick McCall, a professional fugitive recovery agent, spoke with 5 News about the work behind the scenes.
McCall says the lack of information being released has everything to do with holding evidence close, but says behind the scenes, the work is nonstop. What kind of tools or tactics are typically used in a manhunt like this?
They're going to go through these people's personal lives with that fine-tooth comb to see what's going on, and then deploy some technology that we discussed in terms of license plate cameras and social media searches and cell phone records to kind of determine who was in those areas.
He says the killer likely knew the trail and likely knew how to avoid being seen.
This individual probably enjoyed the park just as these people did, right? Regular goer to the park, did some surveillance and found his perfect hiding spot in here. So anybody that seemed out of the ordinary 3 months ago, 6 months ago, or as recently as the day of should be reported to law enforcement.
Police were getting closer. They released a new photo. It showed the back of the suspect, but it made the image real, something people could look at to see if they recognized traits belonging to someone they knew.
We did our initial release. Other witnesses came forward that were on the trail during the time that the murders occurred that did not see the murders, but brought forth video footage, photographs that they had taken on their day trip to the park. From that, we obtained a photo.
4 days after the murder of Clinton and Cristen Brink, a break in the case.
Our suspect was identified, and with that, we sought him out and we located him at a local barber shop.
Now, this new photo, hundreds of tips and hundreds of hours of hard work. But it came down to the vehicle seen leaving Devil's Den State Park to put a suspect in handcuffs.
We received well over 5 or 6, maybe close to 10 videos of this particular car from homes and businesses along the routes in and out of the park.
Police identified the suspect vehicle as a Kia Stinger. From there, they had to determine who drove black Kia Stingers in the area and whether any of them matched the photos and videos they received from park goers.
And we used that information to vet various owners, and our suspect was identified. And with that, we sought him out and we located him at a local barber shop.
Police say it happened quick.
Within the hour.
It was right here at this beauty salon in Springdale where the Arkansas State Police say that just before 5 Wednesday evening, they arrested 28-year-old Andrew James McGann.
What should have been a typical Wednesday for hairdresser Adriana Louise was anything but. She had no idea the man at the center of a massive manhunt and suspected of brutal killings at Devil's Den State Park just sat down in her chair.
I was in the break room heating up my food for lunch, and I noticed a black car pulled up. The door is open, so I would see who would pull up. I came back up here, and I noticed the guy just standing over here. As soon as I saw him, something fell off about him. His eyes just looked sunken, pretty kind of like soulless is what I could describe. I did notice he didn't want anything cut from the top of his head. He wanted to hide his face. He just wanted a fade on the sides. He didn't really know what he wanted, so I kind of explained to him what kind of haircut would go well with him.
Then a detective came through the front door.
It was about 5 minutes into the haircut when a man pulled up, and asking about whose car that was outside, and that's when he would tell him, I believe this is your car, and he just stood quiet.
More law enforcement officers arrived.
They just told him to stand up from the chair. They needed to talk to him, and he just stood up, head down. He just felt like he just gave in. I'm not sure, something like they caught me and didn't put up a fight or anything.
Now police had 28-year-old Andrew McGann in custody. They also had the vehicle they say fled from Devil's Den State Park moments after Clinton and Cristen Brink were brutally murdered.
With that, we, spoke to him, and he made statements indicating that he had committed these heinous acts. Our job didn't stop there. We executed a search warrant on his house and also on the vehicle.
We did confirm this morning that our suspect's DNA has been a positive match to the DNA that we suspected to belong to our suspect at the scene. During an interview with investigators, the suspect indicated that he did commit these murders. We executed a search warrant at his residence. There were articles found there that are consistent with being involved in this particular crime. He was injured. I do know that his injuries resulted in blood loss, and it was that blood loss that allowed us to establish a DNA profile to begin with, and it was that DNA profile that was matched today against our suspect.
So if you'll remember the photo that was of the back of our suspect, we did find items that were consistent with what was seen in that photograph. Was the weapon there? Well, we don't know that it's the weapon, but we did collect some knives from the residence. We won't know until we test it, obviously.
We have no reason to believe that there was any known association between our suspect and our victims. There's nothing to indicate that at all. It appears to be a completely random event. As far as the weapon that was used, it was a knife. Our victims died by stab wounds. From what we know right now, we have no indication to suggest that the girls were his target. Now that we have our suspect in custody, there's going to be a part of the investigation that's going to go back, and they're going to look at timelines, and they're going to look at kind of his movements leading up to that, and hopefully that will give us all a better picture of why he did this, how long he had planned this.
Now in police custody, a suspect believed to have committed one of the most brutal murders Arkansas has ever seen. Why? And who is Andrew McGann? Police quickly find out that McGann was days away from starting a job as a teacher.
Arkansas State Police Special Agents have arrested James Andrew McGann, 28, of Springdale. He's been charged with 2 counts of capital murder in the deaths of Clinton David Brink and Kristen Amanda Brink. I'm extremely grateful for the long hours and dedication that our agents put forward in bringing justice to this family. Because of their hard work and investigative skill, we were able to take a monster off the streets and bring relief to Clinton and Kristen's precious girls. And to the rest of citizens of Arkansas.
The case becomes even more shocking as details about Andrew McGann are released. He doesn't have an adult criminal history, but Andrew McGann had worked as a teacher in neighboring states.
We found that he lived in Texas and also Oklahoma.
McGann was a teacher in the Louisville, Texas Independent School District outside of Dallas during the 2022-23 school year, but resigned after being put on leave. The Louisville School District shared a statement saying it was due to concerns related to classroom management, professional judgment, and student favoritism. They go on to say that an internal investigation found no evidence of inappropriate behavior with students. And McGann resigned from the district in May 2023. The following school year, McGann worked at Broken Arrow Public Schools in Northeast Oklahoma. A statement from the school confirms he taught 5th grade at Spring Creek Elementary and left on his own accord. From there, he worked at another small Oklahoma school, every time passing a background check. And then McGann came to Arkansas and was hired on at Springdale Public Schools, not far from where the murders happened at Devil's Den State Park. McGann was arrested the night before his new teacher orientation, 2 weeks before the school year was set to begin.
You know, everyone speculates that he took there was a lot of thought that went into this to conceal his identity. I will say that, but on the other side of that, he was also very sloppy. He was obviously getting a haircut, but you could chalk that up to school starts next week.
McGann is booked into the Washington County Jail with the promise of justice from the county prosecutor.
I want the public to know that they're safe. The defendant in this case is innocent until he's proven guilty, but I'm confident that we have the right defendant in this case and that the public need not worry going forward. Someday they're going to open Devil's Den State Park, and I'll be on the trail myself when that happens. The defendant will be spending time in Washington County Circuit Court over the course of the coming days. It is my intention to use the full weight of my office to bring this defendant to justice for the Brinks family. This case certainly has the aggravators that exist where a jury should get to decide what the punishment for this defendant is. It is my intention to pose that to a jury. So the state will not be waiving the death penalty in this case.
Andrew McGann ultimately pleaded not guilty to the 2 counts of capital murder, and a judge locked the case up tight with a gag order keeping anyone connected from speaking about it. It could take years before Andrew McGann goes to trial to face a jury.
Clinton and Cristen shared a marriage rooted in faith, laughter, and adventure.
A funeral service was held for Clinton and Cristen Brink at Grace Baptist Church in Bakersfield, California, before they were laid to rest.
They were each other's best friend, the biggest cheerleader and constant teammate, truly one in heart and purpose. They were fiercely loyal to each other, their families, and their Savior, Jesus Christ.
I want to touch real briefly on something that gets lost in this sometimes, and that's the family story. We've spoken to the family quite a few times over the last several days, and what we heard consistently is what a loving mother and father they were, loving husband and wife that they were towards each other. They absolutely protected those girls to their fullest extent, to the point that it cost them their lives. We're in awe of this mom and dad. We're also in awe of these girls. The information that they were able to provide to start us down this path, to be able to make this arrest, it all started with those 2 little girls. It's incredible. We also don't want to forget that there was a 3rd sister. Thankfully, she was not with the family on the trail that day, but she suffered just as tragic of a loss, and we need to keep that in mind.
In addition to community support, a GoFundMe in honor of Clinton and Cristen Brink raised more than $90,000.
I have no doubt that those 3 girls are going to be well taken care of, and they're going to get everything they need from that family. And they also know that if they have a need that we can assist with, we being the state of Arkansas, any type of state public entity, then we will absolutely do that.
If I needed you, would you come to me? Would you come to me for to ease my pain?
I'm Mariana. I'm Christina. And this is our Arkansas State Police story. Hi, my name's Mariana. Hi, my name's Christina. And we're the Brink sisters. Today I wanted to be telling you that thank you so much for catching the bag at here, our mommy and daddy. We really appreciate it. And just to let you know, we've been doing really, really good in California with our aunt to local. And we've been included in volleyball. And guess what? Our grandma is our coach. And we also have lots and lots of friends. And we have good grades. Thank you so much. Bye.
Now, as of May 2026, Andrew McGann is in the Washington County Jail awaiting trial. His lawyers have filed motions hoping to take the death penalty off the table with no luck. They've also filed motions to keep certain things sealed in hopes of getting a fair trial. McGann has also appeared in court without handcuffs and in regular clothes. No doubt part of his legal strategy to a fair trial, but at all times is heavily under guard. Now, the Brink's daughters are being raised and taken care of by family. The money raised by the GoFundMe page was listed as a way to provide for them and help lay Clinton and Cristen Brink to rest. As of 2026, it's at almost $100,000. Well, that's it for this edition of UnNatural State of Crime. I'm Jo Ellison. Thank you for watching.